How much FPS will a PC with a GTX 1060 GPU and i5 8400K CPU get in different graphic games? This is part 2 of this series, so don't forget to hit the bell notifications on to not miss more videos from me. So basically how this is going to work is that I will play 2 different games, Overwatch and Fortnite. But if you're not a fan of neither of those games, don't worry, it'll actually help you out to get a little idea of how much FPS a considerably low-end PC would get in different graphic games. Also, keep in mind that I will actually test out other games in the future with this PC and these specs. Before we jump into the actual tests, I just want to say that there are video chapters to the video that will guide you through all the different topics of today's video, so your video experience will be as smooth as possible. I will also include a nice summary part of the video where I will showcase approximately how much FPS the 2 games with different settings and such got. First game that I think is the most requested one actually is Fortnite. I tested the FPS in the two different settings, low and high, so you can get a little idea of how much FPS you'll get with higher and lower graphic settings. Now just to remember that the FPS goes down when recording, so from every result you can take, let's say, 15 or even 20 more FPS, but I will include this in the summary part of the video so you don't have to worry. In creative, surprise surprise, it got a lot of FPS with low settings, so going up to even 230 FPS at sometimes. With high settings, it still isn't a big challenge for your computer, but it does go down to 150 to 160 FPS. Now let's take a look at how much FPS you'll get when you're just playing casually in a solo match. Now with low settings, it was some decent results with the FPS going from between 90 to 130. Now I have the frame rate limit at unlimited, so that's the reason to why it went up and down all the time, and my PC was striving for FPS it couldn't handle, obviously. With high settings, though the PC does the job, if you're looking to get big frame rates even at the higher graphics, then this isn't the specs that you want. Basically, it was at a decent 100 FPS, which still is good for casual gaming. Now hold your hats, because now we're gonna snap up the graphics a little and turn on Overwatch. Now keep in mind that my settings are 150 frame rate cap and ultra graphics quality. Now if you use a lower or higher graphics quality than ultra, then your FPS will be higher or lower depending on, obviously. Going into a normal comp game, the frames were pretty consistently at 100 FPS, but remember that when you're not recording, it might even go up to 120 FPS with ultra settings. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the glorious summary part of the video where I'm basically going to be showcasing the results from the FPS tests that I showed you guys earlier in the video, because it went pretty fast forward in the tests. So this is basically the perfect place to see how much FPS different settings and different games got very clearly. As I mentioned earlier, here is the summary part. I will increase the numbers of the FPS a little so you get an idea of the FPS values when you're not recording a video at the same time as gaming. So Fortnite Creative really was no problem on low or respectively high settings, because with low going on around 240 FPS and high on around 165 FPS. In a normal match, it really went down a lot, if you gotta be honest, on them both, with the low settings getting 140 and high settings capping around 120 FPS. The slightly more demanding game, Overwatch, with ultra settings stayed at a decent 110 to 120 FPS, which as I mentioned earlier, works totally fine for just casual gamers. So these specs may not be the best, but if you just want to game casually, you can play, I'd say, any game without any problems. But of course, the FPS values do vary, as we saw in the video. Now, I hope you found some sort of value in today's video. If you got any questions, leave them in the comment section down below. And, you know, subscribe to the channel with notice on for more videos from me. With that said, see you next video. Starks out.